You know, and we have to remember the social conditions that existed at that time. Mark referred to the events of Cable Street and Mosley's Black Shirts. Well, again, it was very many of our members from the furniture workers at that time, along with the local community, that actually stood out and said, in the English translation of No Pasaran, that they shall not pass in Cable Street, and the trade union movement, along with those people, stopped Mosley's Black Shirts walking down Cable Street. And you know, it's very similar, because most of our members are just made up of ordinary people like ourselves today, from all walks of life. You know, and we see working people, whether they are migrant workers today, being attacked. And of course our union, along with other trade unions, are doing a hell of a lot to recruit these people into trade unions, fighting to have equal rights with workers in this country. So the devaluation of terms and conditions, living conditions, cannot be played off against one another. But you know, the BNP, you know, that wonderful British National Party, made up of people from the ex-National Front, may have been skinheads 20 years ago. Now they've got suits covering up the tattoos, the earrings and things like that. But you know, they haven't changed. And whereas today they've got 49 councillors, at the next elections they are hoping to have over 100 councillors. So part of our campaign within the GMP is to make all our workplaces and the communities where our members live a BNP-free zone. Because if it was wrong in 1936, it's wrong today. You know, and the anti-fascist fortnight that's going to take place from March is going to take place amongst 100 constituencies around the country. There's going to be a bus tour. The Mirror newspaper are going to get behind it with a special supplement. So the resistance to fascism and the growth of fascism in this country is now starting to build. Comrades, I hope this is a good start for all of us to build behind that issue of resistance to fascism. You know, people like Jack in 1936 went and could have given their lives to the cause of fighting fascism. We had many hundreds of people, thousands of people during the Second World War that laid their lives down fighting fascism. All around the globe, whether it's been in Chile, whether it's been in Italy, the trade union movement, people at that time have resisted and have been prepared to give their life in fighting fascism. Now, I'm not asking you to do that today, but what I am asking you, that when you hear people talking about racism and fascism and degrading migrant people today, don't sit quiet. Challenge it. That's what we're about. Have a good evening.
But now apparently you send messages and emails and Blackberries and all the rest of it. Philosophy Football is a web-based company, but we're pretty 19th century in our technological understanding. So we're really pleased to work with Simon Green from Eventful, because he understands technology like nobody else. He set up a sound system tonight, he set up the microphones, but most importantly, since last November, he's been working on a film, which we're going to show now, which we hope will give you a really good visual introduction to the meaning of the Spanish Civil War. Simon.
Okay, so can you pause that, Greg? Okay, to make sense of this film, this is a silent film in the tradition of Robert Tressel, and for some of you that know about Robert, he used to go out into the community and do live AV in working men's clubs and pubs. So this film is silent. It's important for you to be able to see a screen, but it's projected in the context of being a social event. So feel free to talk and feel free to communicate and just try and soak up the journey of the Spanish Civil War. So this presentation is broadly about the Spanish Civil War from a UK context.
I thought I would preface a few lines that I've been allocated to recite to you this evening, to extend a hearty thank you to those who made and showed this wonderful, wonderful film that we saw today. waited and wondered where all this great talent there is of making films in this country, not to speak of Hollywood, and a film that showed something of the truth of Spain. And here we've had it this evening, and it needs to be shown in every school and university in this country. I could go on, but I won't. But there's a second big thank you, which is in its way a more heartfelt thank you, and it is thank you to the wonderful cooks who produced this wonderful paella we've had this evening. Of course, if it could be made over a big, enormous fire in the lovely green park of the Casa de Campo or anywhere else in Spain, it might have been better, especially from down. But they've done their very best. Thank you, Cook. Thank you very much. We have chosen this poem to read, as Marlene said, so eloquently, and who more eloquent than her, one of the greatest actresses that has stalked the stage of this country. And yet, when we see that many of the time, I've stood by that monument and people have come past in a great rush to get the ride on the wheel, stopped and looked and saw this line and thought, I wonder who wrote that. And one day, one brilliant brain, mine in fact, the idea, why not read this poem so that people everywhere will know of what this is about. And it's important because it was a poem by one of the greatest poems of that time, Cecil Day Lewis. When we all went to Spain those early days, one of the ways in which papers like the Daily Mail and others try to decry those of us who went to Spain by saying, oh well, it's only a bunch of Ponzi poets that are going out there and nobody's going to take much bloody notice of them. But it turned out that some great poetry was done in Spain. And later on, when this fraud was exposed, when workers came from field and countryside and from the ranks of the unemployed in this country, they saw that this was a foul slander. But there were poets who were with us in those first days and later on. We were proud of those poets in those days, and we are prouder still today. Many years ago, Penguin produced an anthology of poems about Spain and by people who had been to Spain. And when it was first proposed that we should do one ourselves, it looked a bit something more than we needed. Yet Jimmy Jump went ahead, collected a magnificent series of poems which I can't stop recommending to you all. With that further boost, I hope they'll sell like hotcakes. The poem by Cecil Day Lewis is based on those two lines. We came because our open eyes could see no other way. Tell them in England, if they ask, what brought us to these wars, to this plateau beneath the night's grave manifold of stars. It was not fraud or foolishness, glory, revenge, or pay. We came because our open eyes could see no other way. There was no other way to keep man's flickering truth alight. These stars will witness that our course burned briefer, not less bright. Beyond the wasted olive groves, the furthest lift of land, there calls a country that was ours, and here shall be regained. Shine to us memory and real, green water, silken meads, rivers of home, refresh our path, whom here your influence leads. Here, in a parched and stranger place, we fight for England free. the good our fathers won for her, the land they hope to see. Thank you.
Pasaran was the slogan adopted by the people of Madrid in the early weeks and months of the Spanish Civil War, when they faced the advancing troops of General Franco as they closed in on the city. And it was also, of course, as we've been told earlier this evening, the slogan adopted by the people of the East End of London to oppose Sir Oswald Mosley's fascist black shirts. And of course, the people then could quite clearly see there was a connection. Hitler and Mussolini were Franco's strongest backers. Hitler sent his transport planes to bring Franco's army over from northern Africa, from Morocco to the Spanish mainland, and that army swept up through southern Spain to Madrid, and Franco confidently expected he would take Madrid within a few weeks. What he met was the resistance of the workers' militias, formed hurriedly by the people of Madrid, and by the international brigades, which arrived in the city in, I think, November of 1936. And in fact, I'm proud to be on this platform with Sam, who fought in the defence of Madrid in that early decisive battle. Franco was stopped. He tried to take Madrid from the west, and as I said, Sam fought in the famous battles around the university city. Having failed to do that, he tried another tactic in February 1937, 70 years ago this month. He tried to encircle the city, and to do that he had to cut the main road that went from Madrid to Valencia, the Mediterranean coast. And that road runs at the southeast of the capital through the valley of the river Jarama. And Franco's initial onslaught broke the Republican defensive lines around a village called Morata, and the British battalion, which had only been formed literally just a few weeks previously, because people like Sam, who went, some of the earlier volunteers were assigned to French and German units, but the British battalion was thrown into action for the first time at the Battle of Jarama it was on February the 12th. In fact, they were moved forward to try and plug this breakthrough that Franco's forces had made. They went through 2 days of hell, terrible, ferocious attack, took terrible casualties, and then on the third day, astonishingly, the remnants of the battalion, 500 strong, mustered, and they advanced along with some other French and Spanish troops, and it is said that they sang the Internationale, the great international social anthem of the time, and the song adopted by the international brigades. And so rousing was their rendition of it that the fascists thought they were facing a far larger force, and they fell back. The British retook their positions, and the Spanish Republican forces came up behind them, and the Battle of Jarama prevented the cutting of the road from Madrid to Valencia, and prevented Franco from encircling Madrid. And as people of Madrid are still proud to tell you today, Madrid never fell in the Spanish Civil War. Franco's troops only marched in when the Republic finally collapsed in March 1939, exhausted, starved of supplies, of munitions, and as we've been told earlier, betrayed by the Western democracies. So, it falls on me actually to read the first poem. Well, Jarama is the song of the British Battalion is called the Valley of Jarama. It's got a special place in the annals of the British Battalion of the Spanish Civil War. And in this poetry anthology, which I hope you've all bought, all proceeds go to the International Brigade Memorial Trust. There are a dozen of the poems refer directly or indirectly to the Battle of Jarama. It was a victory of sorts. It stopped Franco taking Madrid early in the war, but it was a tragic event as well. Of the 500 British and Irish volunteers who went into battle on the 12th of February, after 3 days, 150 of them had been killed and the same number badly wounded. So it was, although there were very bloody battles to come at Brunete and the Ebro and Teruel and elsewhere, it will always have a special place in the history of the British Battalion. So I'd like to finish by reading one poem. Children unborn then have forgotten their dolls now. The small green olive trees are no longer small. White house over Maratha. Twice chalk has healed over, bullet scars traced into shutter and wall. The bishop was hard then, he is feeble and cold now. His vintner was eager, now the devil is beckoning. But longer than time dreams Sancho the peasant, stronger than trees and the stranger's strange reckoning. See, many nations have put on spring's joy robe. She is still shrouded in black of her slavery, and the night of her eyes is dark in the morning, mourning her sons, red tears for their bravery. We said we will return to the house by the crossroads. From the corners of the earth we shall come again. Years shall not master us, we will master them. We said he is waiting, we will come back to Spain. Add horror to terror, add fighting to waiting, add manhood to childhood, add singing to weeping. O hills of Jarama, white house over Maratha, we have said that the hour will not find us sleeping. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce, just again, just to remind you while we're here, this is the book. Please buy it if you can, and you'll have many more poems to enjoy. I'm now going to introduce Sam, who is going to read a poem called The Volunteer, parts of which are a couple of lines from The Volunteer, which are engraved on the stone of the International Brigade Memorial Trust National Memorial, which is in Jubilee Gardens, very close to the London Eye, the big wheel. And we have a meeting there every year in July, the nearest date to the beginning of the Spanish Civil War. And this year it's going to be on the Saturday, the 21st of July, and we hope as many of you as possible will come and join us on that day. Anyway, yeah, try. And now here is Sam.
I don't think I need this. Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I thought I would preface a few lines that I've been allocated to recite to you this evening, to extend a hearty thank you to those who made and showed this wonderful, wonderful film that we saw today. Years and years I've waited and wondered where all this great talent there is of making films in this country, not to speak of Hollywood, and a film that showed something of the truth of Spain. And here we've had it this evening. And it needs to be shown in every school and university in this country. I could go on, but I won't. But there's a second big thank you, which is in its way a more heartfelt thank you, and it is thank you to the wonderful cooks who produced this wonderful paella we've had this evening. Of course, if it could be made over a big, enormous fire in the lovely green park of the Casa de Campo or anywhere else in Spain, it might have been better, especially from down. But they've done their very best. Thank you, cooks. Thank you very much. We've chosen this poem to read, as Marlene said, so eloquently, and who more eloquent than her, one of the greatest actresses that has stalked the stage of this country. And yet, when we see that many of the time, I've stood by that monument, and people have come past in a great rush to get the ride on the wheel, stopped and looked, and saw this line: And I thought, I wonder who wrote that.
Well, first of all, can I thank you all for coming tonight. I do appreciate very much the interest that is still being displayed in support of those who fought against fascism in the past and who still would like to join you in fighting fascism and reactionary ideas today. Because the fight isn't over, but I personally am overjoyed to see the degree of enthusiasm amongst younger people for the battle to defend democracy and to fight fascism and to advance the cause of working class people. So thanks again, good luck to all of you. Keep right on to the end of the road.
Thank you, Jack.
On him that he never forgot. I sing of my comrades that once did sing the Internationale in that great choir at Alberthetti before the battle. Rank after rank of the young battalions, they came from every corner of the earth, so many men from distant lands who took to arms in the defense of Spain's republic. Madrid, the magnet that drew us all along slow roads to Spain. At last a star for desperate men, sensing the gathering storm, and we that fought to warn a watching world were called false prophets, yet fought for the poor of the world. Our lullabies were soldiers' songs, sung by sad women to the sons of the fallen, and remembered in Remembrance Day long past. After the thudding drum and shriek of bugles, I listened to the slow lament for brothers, sons, and lovers lost. It is the sadness in the singing, the undertones of woe, the deep vein of grief that throbs throughout my generation. Thank you. You saw in the film about the brigades being withdrawn from Spain in 1938, and Pasaran gave a wonderful speech in which she promised to welcome the international brigaders back to Spain when democracy had come to Spain. And in 1996, brigaders from all over the world were invited back and were invited to take up Spanish citizenship. It was the most wonderful time, and that was the beginning of our organisation. And it was wonderful to see how the Spanish people welcomed the brigaders, welcomed them with open arms, brass bands, you know, great banquets, and wanted to hug them all and kiss them and welcome them with tears. Thank you for what you did all those years ago. And now Maxine is going to read Pasanaria's speech.
It is very hard to say a few words in farewell to the heroes of the International Brigades, both because of what they are and what they represent. A feeling of sorrow and infinite grief catches our throat. Sorrow for those who are going away, grief for those who will stay here, forever mingled with the Spanish soil. You came to us from all peoples, from all places, from all races. You came to us like brothers, like sons of undying Spain. And in the hardest days of war, when the capital of the Spanish Republic was threatened, it was you, gallant comrades of the International Brigades, who helped to save the city with your fighting enthusiasm, your heroism, and your spirit of sacrifice. For the first time in history of the people's struggles, there has been the spectacle, breathtaking in its grandeur, of the formation of the International Brigades to help save a threatened country's freedom and independence. The freedom and independence of our Spanish land. Communists, socialists, anarchists, republicans, men of different religions, yet all of them fired with a deep love of liberty and justice. And they came and they offered themselves to us unconditionally. They gave us everything, their youth or their maturity, their science or their experience, their blood and their lives, their hopes and aspirations, and they asked us for nothing at all. Mothers, women, when the years pass and the wounds of war are staunched, when the memory of the sorrowful and bloody days disappears in a present of freedom, of peace and well-being, when the feelings of rancour have died, and when pride in a free country is felt by all Spaniards, then speak to your children. Tell them of these men of the International Brigades. Tell them how, coming over seas and mountains, crossing frontiers, these men reached our country to fight and die for Spain's liberty and independence. They gave up everything, their loves, their countries, home and fortunes, fathers, mothers, wives, brothers, sisters, and children. And they came and told us, we are here. Your cause, Spain's cause, is ours. It is the cause of all mankind. Today, they are going away. Many of them, thousands of them, will remain, shrouded in the Spanish earth, and all Spaniards will remember them with the deepest of feeling. Comrades of the International Brigades, political reasons and reasons of state are sending you back, some to your own countries, others to forced exile. Comrades of the International Brigades, you can go proudly. You are history. You are legend. You are the heroic example of democracy's solidarity and universality. We shall not forget you. And when the olive tree of peace puts forth its leaves again, entwined with the victory laurels of the Republic of Spain's victory, come back. Come back to us. With us, those of you who have no country will find one. Those of you deprived of friendship will find friends. And all of you will find the love, affection, and gratitude of the whole of the Spanish people, who today and in the future will cry out with all their hearts, long live the heroes of the International Brigades.
We're going to take a short break now before we're going to hear from one of the finest poets of this new generation, Lem Sisse, followed by the musicians. But before I do, I've realised, Sam and Jack, that we've got a fundamental flaw in our marketing strategy at Philosophy Football, because we're failing at the moment to sell T-shirts to 90-year-old veterans. But I know it's a long time since you've worn the banner and the uniform of the International Brigade, but we'd like to present you with the very first fresh off the print production line of our very modern version of that very fine banner of 70 years ago. And I don't know if you wear T-shirts in your 90s, but I understand they do ride up with wear. So we'd like to present you it. And on that banner it's written just 3 words, which sums it all up: peace, democracy and freedom. And couldn't we all do with a bit more of that? So
you just don't get that kind of response at poetry slams. I don't do them, I've never done them, but I wonder why there is so much poetry going on at the moment and so little anger. It kind of, whenever you go to one of those gigs and you find yourself out and you find yourself, I never knew poetry was like that. I enjoyed myself. Ask yourself. Anyway, I'm going to read a poem from the book. I've read all over the world. I read in South Africa shortly after Mandela was freed, etc., etc. It doesn't mean anything except for to say that wherever there is, do you know? I think that if aliens came down, they would translate the human experience not through manifestos, but through art. It is that mixes both the political situation as well as the human experience. And politics, a lot of the time, doesn't do that. And art does. Art is utterly futuristic as well as being utterly of the present. It really, really is. And at any time, births, deaths, marriages, you revert to poetry, you find it on clouds. You go around graveyards, you'll find the last thing that a person leaves with somebody when they pass, a poem, a part of a poem, thinks it's bad poetry. That's shit. You know, he was good, Ed. Now he's dead. That kind of thing. And yes, I will walk around those graveyards with a chisel. No, out of respect. Out of respect to edit the work. The beat poetry of the 60s, you know, dead, Ed, dead. It works for me. This poem is something... in my career in poetry, I started when I was 16. I grew up in a little mining village in Lancashire. I'm a rare breed. Not necessarily good, but a rare fucking breed. And, true. I know there's somebody out there going, he's fucking shy. But and you watch this industry, the publishing industry in particular, the people who actually put out the work, which then dictates what is what we read in the Guardian, what we read in the everything but the Morning Star, which has its own glorious agenda. And anyway, this is really interesting. This poem. This is as relevant today here in London as it was as it is in Manchester. By the way, I live here now. I live in I know. Somebody went, oh fuck. He's got his northern accent. He's doing the professional northerner in London. Bastard. Ooh, how working class is he? Who knows? Anyway. This poem's called Letter from the Underworld. It's by Eileen. I think it's by Eileen's a woman's name. It's spelled A-I-L-E-E-N. Eileen Palmer. It's Letter from the Underworld. I think she's Irish. I fucking love Ireland. I fucking love it. Like Eileen Palmer, it's the best. I've travelled all over the world as a poet. Fucking Ireland, fucking rocks on so many levels, man. I swear to God. And it's supposed to go. Eileen Palmer, I didn't say that for. Anyway. Eileen Palmer, Letter from the Underworld for the English. Me lords, ladies, and gentlemen, you'll forget, no doubt, that we have ever met. You see, I see this in my industry. I see this. Eileen Palmer, me lords and ladies, you'll forget, no doubt that we ever met, or may think with a spasm of pain, one of the crowd I knew in Spain. Our underworld is different now. Folk live in affluence, and how? Old boys get knighthoods, and they get thistles. With aristocracy, it bristles. But lords and ladies, don't forget, somehow on Freedom Road, we met. This poem's called Immigration RSV. I read this poem at a skinhead conference in Manchester for the British National Party. They asked me to do the event as they'd just got a grant from the council, and then, I don't know why you're laughing, it's quite serious, but they needed more, as it said on the funding application form, that they needed more ethnic minorities and women. And so I was the ethnic minority, because I do a great slavery workshop as well. I do in education, where I basically chain up the children in the court. I get paid thousands and thousands for this. I've been doing it for years, the same gig. It fucking works. But what I do is I chain up the children in the corner of the class, And I wait for the bell, you know, they end up crying and stuff. Please let me out. And then just before the bell goes, I release the chains. And I say, see? And that's it. That's my workshop. I get paid thousands for that. There is somebody in some city council who's getting funding for multiculturalism, white or black, who's funded in their job for £20,000 a year, who employs me at £1,000 for an hour to do that. And I do. And not only that, I fill in the evaluation application form straight afterwards. Check me out. Anyway, this poem's called Immigration Arrest. I know there's somebody in the audience thinking, twat. And then thinking, I shouldn't say that. And they'd be right. I'll read this and then I'll go. You've been a blessing. The lemons you suck are from Spain, the orange you drink's from South Africa, shoes you wear are made in Pakistan and your oil's from Saudi Arabia. You import your petrol from the Gulf states, your toys are made in Taiwan, your coffee they send from Colombia and your cars are driven from Japan. You've flooded yourself with foreign goods, but foreigners you tell me are bad. You say you're afraid that we'll overrun you. I've been in India, are we already? Thanks very much. You must buy this book, Poems from Spain. I'll be on Saturday live from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I haven't written the poem that I'm supposed to write for that programme because I'm here.
Young, and that's something we should applaud. So let's applaud the fact there's a new generation of activists. And it's a great pleasure, alongside the veterans Jack and Sam, to introduce Lee Billingham, National Organiser of Love Music Hate Racism.
Hello everyone, thanks Mark. Big thanks for inviting us down here tonight to talk a little bit about my organisation and really how it fits into the theme of the night, No Pasaran. They shall not pass. I think something that, once again, unfortunately, it's a slogan that we need to raise, that we need to remind people about what it means. Because I think, seeing the veterans here tonight, hearing again about how people from Britain, how people from around the world sacrificed their lives and sacrificed a lot to go and fight against fascism in another country. That's what's so inspiring, really, about the International Brigades and the Spanish Civil War. And I think it's part of a tradition that we have in Britain. A tradition that every time those Nazis raise their head, whether it's been mentioned earlier, whether it was Mosley's black shirts in the East End in 1936, whether it was in the 70s and Mark said it, the Anti-Nazi League, or before that, the Black Residents and Anti-Racists of Lewisham, before that, and Rock Against Racism, and then going through in the early 90s, we had to deal with them again in Tower Hamlets when a very nasty man called Derek Beacon won a seat for the BNP. He was squashed within a year. Because in this country we have a tradition, we don't let these people grow any bigger than they already are at the moment. It is an international struggle. We've got a fascist in the government in Italy. We've got a fascist come in second place for president in France, and we don't want to let that happen here in Britain. The British Nazi Party at the moment have 49 councillors around the UK, more than they ever had before, and that's a cause for alarm. But let's not forget, they're still relatively small. We can still smash them if we stay united, and if we keep putting out that message of No Pasaran. The other thing tonight's reminded me about is the part that culture has to play in stopping fascism and fighting racism. We've had the marvellous poets here tonight, and the poets from the war, and so on. And again, a reminder, I think, of sometimes artists can be ahead of political activists in being able to express people's revulsion against people who want to do ethnic cleansing, who want to get rid of democracy. I think poets and musicians can often reach for that expression sooner than some of the rest of us can, and that's what we're trying to do with Love Music Hate Racism. We don't want worthy music just because it's a good cause. We want the best, most vital, cutting-edge music. We want the best that multiracial Britain has to offer today. And I hope that's what we've been able to do up to now in the campaign. So, before I introduce the film I'm here to talk about, I just want to really make an appeal to people to get involved however you can today. You know, it was the Jews back in the 30s, it's the Muslims, it's asylum seekers today. We have to make sure we stand shoulder to shoulder with those people and that they're welcome in our society. The film you're about to see, it's a cut-down version of another film, a film made by a guy called Alan Miles, who's a serving firefighter. Alan and his partner in crime, Greg here, have been following us around over the last 3 or 4 years, filming all our events. And I think Alan's made a magnificent film about Rock Against Racism, about what an incredible grassroots movement it was, about our kids in their tens of thousands and music lovers of all ages came out against fascism back in the 70s. It's very inspiring, and what we did was ask Alan and Greg to make a short version of that we could take into schools around the country with artists to explain to young people today the dangers of fascism and what they can do about it. So that's the film you're about to see. It's called Who Shot the Sheriff, and probably says a lot more than I can about the struggle today. So do pick up some of this information, do get involved, and thanks for listening. No Pasaran.
Sorry. It's the C and T, isn't it? Okay, 1, 2. There's a light in no drama. It's a place that we all know so well. Oh, it's there that we gave our manhood.
I'd like you also to thank Mel, who's been on the sound system all night long, and he's going to play some dance floor fillers to finish up the night. Now some of you, I don't think many of you after such an inspirational night might think, why are we meeting? To celebrate what was in the end, and let us never forget a defeat. But of course it was the beginning of a people's war that defeated fascism. Yes. But it was in 36 to 39 a defeat. as Santiago Carrillo, the leader of the Spanish Communist Party in the underground years, right the way through to 75 when Franco finally died, had this to say about why defeats matter as well as victories. Lenin has said that sometimes you must be able to fight, even without a prospect of victory, because in that way you leave a heritage, you prepare future battles. So we fought. Jack, Sam and their comrades, they left a heritage that we recognise tonight.